Welcome to Module 3 on the Author Your Brand series of creating your book. This module is called Stool, Cool, and Drool. And stool is about the stools of a leg. You know, need at least 3 legs on a stool to support it, maybe more. And cool is creating a message and some content that is so cool, so compelling, that your audience, your readers, will drool over it. Let's get started. And it's about designing an eye-popping, salivation-induced message. We'll cover stool, cool, and drool here in another 12-15 minutes, but I wanted to understand what that is. Stool is a stool, like something you sit on. Don't get gross on me. Stool has to have 3 legs to support it. Cool is making a very cool message, not something you've heard before, not something that sounds like everybody else, but something really cool to make your readers, your clients, your fans drool. So your leg has 3 or more stools. What that means is you're sitting on a foundation of greatness. Your book has the potential to change lives. You cannot do that on a 1-legged or 2-legged stool. You need at least 3, probably closer to 7 or 8 or 10. So I want to encourage you all to understand your book will not stand on its own. You've got to have a website. You have to have a YouTube channel. And you have to have a blog. Some of those could be combined. You could be blogging on Facebook. You could be doing, you could integrate some of these things, but your book will not succeed at all if you don't have a website behind it, a YouTube channel to promote it, and some way to communicate back and forth with your constituents. So at least 3, but I'm going to really encourage you to have a lot more than 3. Beyond the website and YouTube and your blog, from a marketing and engagement standpoint, I'm really big, obviously a huge fan of Facebook and LinkedIn. These two, for as long as they'll be on this planet, which we don't know how long that will be because things come and go, but for right now, LinkedIn is a very, very growing platform for engaging business professionals. It's very helpful for job searches, there's no doubt, but there's groups on there which I'm seeing get a lot of engagement and a lot of high-end referrals are happening through LinkedIn, provided that you use it. You can't expect to use it like I've seen some people just start sending me messages promoting stuff. That's not going to work. When you use it from a tribal perspective, which we'll discuss in our last module, of engagement and serving and empowerment, you can build a huge tribe using LinkedIn. Facebook, of course, is a juggernaut of all these. It is the #1 social platform on the planet. And to be in business to have a book without having a Facebook profile is just strange. You've got to have one. So get a Facebook page for yourself and then start one right away. Don't wait for your book to be done. I would encourage you to put up a page today promoting your book that's coming out. And make it a working title. Don't worry about the title. Start a Facebook page with your name saying my book. And start that page up. If you need help on that, we've got a module in our program, in our monthly program, to help you get that started up and optimize that as well. You could use contests or polls to get people to help vote on your book. But get a Facebook page for your book. Twitter is another great tool to use for SEO, quite frankly, and for optimizing your links going back to your book. So those are extras. Now, the ones that are mostly overlooked by a lot of entrepreneurs and authors are the last 4 here. Speaking, joint ventures, email, and the telephone. Speaking, of course, a lot of authors love to speak about their topic because they're passionate about it. Some are deathly afraid of speaking. And it doesn't matter because you're going to have to speak regardless. If you don't want to speak in front of big crowds, I'm going to force you to speak on the radio. So you're going to have to at least learn to do sound bites or 3 to 4 minute interviews about your book on the radio. Joint ventures, if you're starting out and you have a smallish list of people to contact, you want to grow that. One of the fastest ways to do that is to engage with other like-minded tribes. So you want to be doing that through joint ventures. You'll notice I'm using the word tribe more than list, and you'll find out more about that in the last module. Email, of course, has not gone away for people over the age of 21. So if you still have an email database, you're going to use that to help build expand your fan base and to engage your readers and customers. And one of the most overlooked ones, I can't believe I have to tell people this, but the most overlooked tool on your stool is the telephone. Pick up the phone and calling people. I can't tell, well, I can prove this to you. When you look at your emails, open up your email box after this module and take a look at what's in there. If there's any, if you're like most people, there's about 100 emails in there. And scan them as quick as you can. and then put the computer down and think about the ones that stood out. There might be 2 or 3 emails in there, or 5, I don't know, but they stood out. Those emails stood out because you actually have met the person or spoken with them, period. This is true for email. This is true for public relations and the media. If you don't get really good of using the telephone in your business, you're missing half of your potentials. You've got to use a telephone to engage with joint venture partners, clients, vendors, and the media. So make sure you've got a good phone and don't be afraid to use it. Those are the mandatory legs on your stool. Planning and execution. When we get to your book, we'll be getting to your book in the next module, I promise. But before we do that, what is your book going to do? Is it designed to, impact lives, change the world, sell more stuff? It's got to be doing something. Therefore, you have to have a marketing plan that goes in concert with your book. We do have a download for you in this module of a marketing plan, some basic questions, and a mind map you can use to help you design a marketing plan. There's some really good content out there. I've seen the one-page marketing plans. I've seen 30-page ones. Get something simple and flexible and write it out and stick it on your wall, put it on your whiteboard, and look at it every single day. Because like most entrepreneurs, we get distracted with the shiny object, and it's important to understand that without a plan, you're going to be pushed and pulled. You're not going to lead your mission. Inside a marketing plan is a sales plan, or some people like to call a guess. It's a dream. Hey, I hope I make these sales. But even if it's a guess, even if you're just unsure because you're just starting out, doesn't mean you shouldn't write it down. Putting down a clear sales plan of what you expect to happen and having that in front of you every day helps reinforce what you're supposed to do to make sure that happens. You're not going to sell 1,000 books your first day. But if you did, how would that look? How would that happen? Wow, if you ask the question, it changes things, doesn't it? How could you sell 1,000 books in your first day? Well, if you want to know the answer to that, all you got to do is take a look at our premium membership program. We'll show you exactly how to do that. When it comes to operations, that's another critical component, especially when it comes to all the technology out there with your website, programming, your contact management system with Aweber, GetResponse, whatever you're using. Make sure you understand who you're going to have, what vendors you're going to use in that plan for operations, and who's going to manage it for you. Let's talk about being cool. What is cool? Who is cool? And who's not cool? And how do you tell the difference? Well, this baby could be considered cool, depending on if you're a mom or a dad. But when we talk about design, I'm going to, again, veer way off the book topic here and talk to you about design outside of the publishing industry. And you'll get to it. Obviously, a long way to get to it, but I want you to understand that when we look at other industries, you're bringing fresh, new ideas to something which is desperate need of it. For example, the computer industry was boring and the same for years and years and years until Apple came out with their crazy ideas, right? All the people had MP3 players before the iPod came out. They all had buttons on there and rewind buttons. And the people at Apple said, what do we need a button for? Why do you need an on-off switch? What for? It powers off when it's done being used. It seems obvious now, but it's just a really, it's designed with function. So in order what's cool is something that's designed with functionality and that stands out, but it's got to be useful, all right? What else? The other thing that's cool is when it's shared selflessly. The difference between somebody who shares stuff that's cool and wants to charge you for it every single time, 6 ways to Sunday, versus someone who says, hey, check this out. I think I'd like to get your feedback on it. It goes back to tribe building. But when you share things selflessly, now not only what you're sharing is cool, but quite frankly, you're sort of perceived as being cool too because, hey, Doug just gave me this great course for almost nothing here. This is pretty nice. Okay, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying. It should be instantly recognizable. If you've got to think about it, if you've got to dissect it or read through 3 paragraphs to determine if this product or message is cool, it's not cool, buddy. It's got to be instantly recognizable. When you see this picture of this baby with this love mommy teddy bear and with the black eye and okay, politically correct aside, who cares about that? But that is instantly recognizable as, okay, this kid is badass, right? So who is cool, who is not? The way to tell the difference are these 3 things. It's got to be designed with functionality, shared selflessly, and instantly recognizable. So we go back to the Apple thing, obviously, when I talked about that a minute ago, but it goes back to, again, hype versus reasonable outcome. We discussed that in the earlier module, but it bears repeating. When your typical product is a mess and Apple's is just simple, there's a specific benefit and a much easier solution. This is much easier, and this is definitely better. Was it hyped up? Maybe a little bit, but I don't really think so. Now, will your readers drool for your book? Will you solve a very painful issue? We have Steve Carell here and the 40-year-old virgin getting some pain inflicted upon him with a wax on his chest. But he had a very, very painful situation there. Do you feel the pain of your client? Can you realistically solve it, and can you prove it? 3 very separate questions. In order to get your customers to really drool over your coolness, you've got to be very, very clear about understanding. I'm not saying feeling their pain, but you've got to understand their pain. All right, let me give you an example. Let's say that you're doing something really innocuous. Let's say you're a plumber, and you want to come out with a book about 7 tips that you can use to save $100 on your next plumbing bill. And you give them some really crazy organic methods to clean their drains or reduce their water bill, whatever it is. You have to understand the pain people are going through, either in calling a plumber and not knowing what they're going to be charging you, or what it's like to have a guy come to your house who you don't know. Whatever their pains are, you've got to clearly understand it. That means getting in their shoes and talking to them. More than just one person. Talk to a bunch of your potential readers and find out what their real pain is and get inside their head. Can you realistically solve it? That means if you find out that they've, I really want my plumbing to be free. Well, can you really make it free? Can you do that realistically? If you can't, then don't hype it up. It goes back to the previous slide. I want you to make sure you can realistically solve as much as you can. Don't overhype it, and be authentic. When it comes to proof, this goes back to also your marketing and your social proof, some of your testimonials and case studies. You're going to want to prove that you can deliver what you say you can. When people first look at you, they don't know you from anybody, you're going to have to show them some proof that you're the real deal. And that comes to basically showing them a case study. And we'll get to that again when we talk about video in another module. The conclusion, just because you think it's cool does not mean that others will drool. Just because you think it's cool does not mean others will drool. Back to the tribe. You've got to get feedback, guys. You cannot just say, hey, I got this really cool idea. I really like it. Well, you're probably pretty unique. That does not mean that your readers are. They might not think it's so cool, and therefore they won't be drooling. So get lots of feedback about your ideas before you go headlong into writing your book. This is probably one of the top 10 biggest mistakes authors make, is going through the whole process of crafting their book, their message, their platform, the whole thing, without getting an adequate amount of feedback very early on in the process. So get feedback. When it comes to creating your coolness, always cut stuff out. You can always cut stuff out. When it comes to words, images, clutter, less is more. And when it comes to your actual product, in terms of design, look, words, image, branding, passion, vision, the whole shoot and match, don't just get customers' feedback. Ask them to help you build it. Get them engaged early on. Say, hey, would you help me with this project? I'll list you as one of the editors. I'll list you as one of the co-authors, designers, mastermind group, board of directors, whatever it is. Get your customers engaged early on, and guess how you're going to sell 1,000 books. There's a little clue for you right there. That concludes this module, and we'll look forward to the next one. If you're not already a subscriber to our monthly program, please do that. You'll get so many benefits out of there. I can't list them all here, but you can go to our page at authoryourbrand.com and see more there. Have a great day. We'll go on to the next module.